What up, comrades? We're here to do Fairy Tale, Volume 20, which picks up right with the battle with Racine Sace, or Nirvana, or whatever that crazy guy's name is. Anyway, so everyone's ready to blow their legs up, and Natsu is still fighting, and he goes, and then what's his fuck uses Genesis Zero, which causes all these like crazy demons to come out and whatnot. Or then Natsu just fucking transforms into like a dragon. And blasts the shit out of all of them. And then he does this like secret Dragon Slayer secret attack, Shiranui Gata. It just blasts the shit out of them. Old Zero here, blasting through the leg just as everyone else is also blasting through the leg, including Wendy, who uses some sort of like adorable like wind attack. And then old perfume guy turns into like a giant beast. Not like an actual beast, but like a gym bro. Meanwhile, outside, Kayat Sith or Kayat fucking whatever, they're watching the whole thing collapse and they're super excited about the whole thing. So then at that point Nirvana starts collapsing and everyone has to like get themselves out of there. So Jura has to rescue Wendy and Carla while everyone else is able to kind of like sneak Hippopotamus out of there, except Natsu and Jalil, who get rescued by Richard, who's the gold guy. He's okay. He's doing all right. The rest of Racy says they probably beat the shit out of, but no one dies in this story, so they're fine. At that point, Wendy runs up, hugs Natsu, and is like, "You kept your promise. I'm so happy." And they high five each other. There's some talk with Jalil and Urza, and she almost confesses her love for him and whatnot. But right before that can happen, they all get stuck in place. Some of that jutsu shika, like they used against the Raiden clan. Or the Raiden clan inside their guild, and this is the commander of who's this guy's name? Oh, it's Lahar. He's the new commander of the arrest and custody division of the new Magic Council, and they're like Nani desu ka? And he's here to arrest Reisi Sace, which includes Hot Eye here, old Richard boy. And then Jorah gets super upset about the whole situation because he saved them and he turned good and all that stuff. And Richard's like, "No, it's okay. I'll pay for my deeds." And then Jorah he's like, "I promise you that I'll find your brother for you." And then Richard's like, really appreciative of the whole situation, and he's like, "Who's your brother?" And his name's Wally Buchanan. And then Urza's like, "Wally?" Remember, Wally's the gun-toting guy with the square face, which makes sense because Hot Eye over here, Richard, has a square face too, or geometrically like shaped face. And Urza's like, "He's doing great, actually. He's a friend of mine. Like, you know, he's off like living adventures and whatever." And then Richard like cries and is like, "Thank you so much," and very appreciative. And then next up is Jalil, "You must surrender." And they're like, "Oh no." And then Urza's like super sad about the whole thing. So they buckle him up because he's not going to fight him to go off, and he's probably going to be in prison for life or put to death. And then Wendy's super sad, and then Jalil apologizes because he doesn't remember her at all. And then Urza's like super sad Hippopotamusville thing, and Natsu sees it, and so of course it's Natsu, so he's like, "No, I will stop you," and he goes and attacks the guards, and then all the fairy tale heroes and attacks the guards, and then finally, let's see, they're fight, and then Juro even fights, like everyone's fighting, and then Urza like tells everyone to stop, and she's like, "Take him away," and then Jill gets like a little smirk on his face and gets carried away, and he gives like Urza like a knowing glance, and he's like, "I do remember you. I remember your fire hair." And then everyone's like super sad and they're just hanging out, and Urza's like remembering all the good times, how Jillo gave her the last name Scarlet because of her hair, and she's like crying up on a mountaintop, and we get some like overdub by Lucy talking about how the sky was scarlet just like her, as like a way to, I don't know, tie them together or whatever. Anyway, over at Kate's shelter, that's the name, we get some fan service with Wendy, of course, wearing like this sexy like Arab style outfit with like cute double braids. And she's all patched up, and then everyone's wearing like these cute outfits, and we learn that Cat Shelter is like they use like the ancient crafting techniques to build clothes from the I think they're called the Nate clan, and then everyone's like super happy and celebrating, and then Blue Pegasus is these guys? I get confused. I think so. I think Lamia Scale is Jura and stuff. So yeah, Blue Pegasus, which is the boys, they're like singing a happy song about battle and everything and loving that. Natsu's like, "Hey, let's party," and then everyone looks over at like the Chaos Shelter, and they're all just like very quiet, and they're like, "I'm sorry, I must apologize." And then the old man is like, "Hey, actually, we're not descendants of the Nervert clan. I am the Nervert clan, and I've been alive for I've been here for over 400 years watching Nirvana." And everyone's like, "What?" And then he goes and tells this story about how he ended war like 400 years ago by creating Nirvana, that it would turn all the evil to good, and it would travel around, and there was like an era of peace, and all the Nivik clan was like, or Nivert clan. But then he talks about how like you couldn't just take shadow away, because when, you know, light brings darkness and darkness brings light. And so, you know, and then Gray's like, oh yeah, that is what happened. And then he talks about how eventually like all that light, all that darkness, they were like closing away, like ended up in Nirvana, and all the Nirvana clan like killed each other, and that he was the only one left alive. And then when he's like, wait, what about all these people? And he's like, you defeated Nirvana, this like long, like 400 years of like maintaining a watch over this place to finally make sure it was destroyed is over. And then everyone starts disappearing from the Nirvana clan, and Wendy's like freaking out, being like, what's going on? And then the clan leader talks about how he was here for like hundreds of years, and then like 6 years ago this boy came and like brought Wendy and was like, here, I need you to take care of her for me. And so the old man was like, I don't know why, but I said okay. And so he's taking care of her, and she's calling him grandpa. And then she's like, he said, when's Jello coming back? He's told me to take me to a guild. And he's like, what do you need to go for a guild for? You have a guild right here. Go outside. And then he used like his immense magical power to like create the guild, like all the mirages of people. But now he's got to go because like his task is done. And Wendy's super sad about it, but he's like, don't be sad. You have new friends here, and they're going to take care of you, and it's going to be great. And even like the tattoo on her back of Kate Shelter, like starts to fade away as he fades away, and she's freaking out and crying. And then Urza goes up, and she's, you know, talks very like, I know what it's like to lose. She doesn't say it like that. She's like, it's a painful thing to part with those you loved, but your friends can fill in the hole. And then she gets invited to Fairy Tale. So then so they take a boat back, and we get some more fan service. And then we learn that Lucy, we see that Sherry and Ren have like, they like each other, but they're being very like tsundere about it. And then so everyone's headed off their own ways. And then all the keys from the Horacia Sace chick, they like got released because she was in prison from their contract. So Gemini, Scorpio, and what's the lamb? It's Capricorn? No, it's like Aries. It's Aries. Aries is the ram. Sorry, they make a contract with Lucy, so now she gets 3 more of like the Golden 12 Zodiac summons. So she's super happy about that. And then they have a conversation about her treating them like people and not just like whatever. After they return, everyone's super excited and thinks Wendy's the best and super cute. Makarov gets like kind of concerned, thinking about how like, oh no, we have 3 Dragon Slayers, so and so. Yeah, I see they were pushing things forward or something. And then everyone starts partying and yelling and having a blast, and they're celebrating and all this stuff. And we see Mystigan, he's like watching, and he gets like very concerned, and then he like fades out of there. And we see even like the Lightning Clan, what they call the Raijin clan, is all there having a good time with everybody as well. So now they're like, everyone's forgiven and forgotten and moved on. At that point, we get like a giant bell ringing in the city, and they're like, it's Gildart. Gildart's back. And it's like, who's Gildart? Gildart is the most powerful wizard in Fairy Tale. And he's been gone for 3 years because he went and took like, not an S quest, not an SS quest, but not a decades quest, but a century quest, a quest that can take over 100 years to finish. And then everyone's like, holy shit. And then Lucy's like, the fuck? And then the city's like, close up the town, or like they call it Gildart Shift. And what happens is the whole town creates like a hallway for him to like walk down to get to the guild. So because his power is that if he touches something, it turns to dust. And if he's not paying attention, he could like tear the whole town down by accident. And so he shows up, and he's super fucking badass with like this big cloak and everything. And Natsu immediately is like, time to fight! And Gildart beats the shit out of him. And then it's like, cool, sounds good. And then Gildart's like, sorry, master, I failed the quest. I couldn't do it. And then Makarov's like, that's okay, at least you lived. No one else lived who took on that quest. And it's like, Jesus. And then he tells Natsu to come see him. He's got a gift for him later. So then later on, Natsu's heading over to Gildart's place, and he's super excited about a gift or whatnot. And then he's like, oh, hey, how's your girlfriend and you, Lysiana, doing? And he's like, Lysiana's dead. And then he's like, oh, shoot, Natsu, I'm so sorry. And then Natsu's like, whatever, I gotta go. And he's like, hold up, I met a dragon. And then Natsu's like, Nani? And he's like, it wasn't your dragon, it was this black dragon. He beats the shit out of me. And it's over on Zania, the Haunted Peak. And so Natsu's about to run off, and then Gildart's like, look. And he takes off his cloak, and he's like all beat the shit out of, like scars all over the place and turned up. And he's like, I almost died. And that was like one blast of this dragon. Like, I was so fast. And then they talk about how Natsu's a dragon slayer and something. And then Natsu's like, I don't give a fuck. And then Gildart's like, he's not even there anymore. He's probably flying around the world doing some other bullshit. And he's an evil dragon. And then Natsu's like, I don't care. And he runs off. And so then Gildart asks Happy to like look out for Natsu. Oh, and this is where Makarov's sitting by himself, just like thinking about the 3 dragon slayers. in the clan or in the guild, and then he says something about Poluchka. It's just like you said, the fate is moving too fast. And then Natsu comes sliding back, and he remembers Ignil, as he's like super sad. Meanwhile, Gajil is like super upset because Wendy and Natsu both have cats, and he doesn't have a cat, and he's also Dragon Slayer. So he goes around to try to find a cat, and he gets fucked up by one of those cats. Back at the guild, Happy's trying to flirt with Carla, but she's super mean to him. And then he like runs after her, and then she's like, "Leave me alone." And then it starts to like rain, and Wendy chases after Carla as well. Then Wendy runs into with Carla runs into Mistigan, and he takes off his mask, and it's dun dun dun. It's Jalil! Holy shit! And then Mistigan's like, I was like, "Oh, Jalil, I thought you were in prison." And he's like, "That's not me, that's somebody else." And it's like, the fuck? And he's like, "I'm Mistigan." But Mistigan is the one who rescued Wendy and took him to the old man. And he's like, "It's good to see you. I want to protect you. Sorry I didn't come back in 7 years. It's good to see you." And then he's like, he falls over, and he's like, "I couldn't stop the anima." And she's like, "The fuck?" And he's like, "You have to escape. Fairy Tail's going to be destroyed. And the whole of Magnolia is going to be wiped off the map." And she's like, "No." And so she's like, "I'm a member of Fairy Tail." And she runs back to the guild. Meanwhile, in the guild, people are just chilling. We find out that Mira Jane and Elfman are going to go to the church because this is like the year anniversary of when Lysiana died, and so they're like sad eponymous about that, so they go to kind of deal with that. And then Wendy's running. We get some like Juvia and Gray flirting with each other and being cute, and then other people being jealous so they can be so honest with their feelings, which is like completely ridiculous because they are not at all. And then Ursa makes a comment to some of these people, like the gun people, about not regretting things. And then Wendy's still racing, and then a vortex opens in the heavens, and like everything in the whole of Magnolia gets torn out, except Wendy. She's just standing there all by herself, and she's like, "No way, what the fuck? The whole guild's gone." And then of course, Natsu pops up out of the ground. He's like, "The fuck?" And then Carla flies over, and then Happy comes out of the ground. And then we find out that her and Happy are from a different world called Aid Olas, and that they came here because their world does not have enough mana, and so they needed to like leech mana off this world because this world has like unlimited mana essentially, and so they created these gates to get stuff over here. But then that someone's been closing all these gates, and it's probably Mystigen, according to Carla, like what she's thinking. And then Natsu's like, "I don't care, I want to go there." And then Carla's like, "If you go there, you might never come back." And it's like, "That's my guild and my friends. I don't care if I ever come back. I want to be with them. The only thing I care about here is Ignil, and he might not even be here." And so then Carla's like, not Happy's like so confused. He's like, "Wait, we're what? We're from where? How do you know all this? How do I not know this?" She's like, "I don't know, but I was born knowing all this stuff." And yada yada yada. We were sent here by like the king of Ed Olas to make sure something and all this stuff. And the Natsu's like, "I don't care, let's get going." And so then Carla's like, "Fine." And she makes it's like, "Hey, if we ever betray me or the male cat ever try to betray you, you have to kill us." And let's see, what else does she say? "We must not attempt to find any others." Oh, find out about the orders they were given, because no cat Happy doesn't remember his orders. And so they agree. So then Carla grabs Wendy, and Happy grabs Natsu, and they blast with all their magic to Edolas. And it's like, wow, it's like a floating planet world, a floating land world. And they're like, "Oh, this is so cool." But then they like crash into the ground because there's not enough magic here. Right, but they crash into a warehouse, so then they're able to like put costumes on because they got to like wear disguises so they don't get caught or something. And then Wendy looks super adorable, like, and then Carla's wearing like a veil for some reason. Anyway, so they find a building that has like the Fairy Tail symbol, and like, "Oh, it's Fairy Tail." And so they run inside, and we see Juvia is like this sexy, confident woman, and that Gray is like a doofus, and then he has like love with Juvia, and he's like flirting with her, and Juvia's giving him a hard time, and he's like, "The fuck?" And then we see the Elfman's like weak as shit, and then the strongest mages in the guild are like the two weakest mages in the guild in the other world, and everyone looks like different, is doing different things. There's Kara, who is like a lush in the other world. Here she's just like this demure young lady. And then to the gun people who are like so scared of being in love with each other are like all over each other, and like, the fuck is happening here? And then they look up and see some badge. I don't even know what to call it. It's just like it's a woman who's like squatted over, and it's like the drawing is like right at her vagina. Of course it's covered because this is like this is a manga for teenagers, you perverts. It's so good. Anyway, and they look up, and it's Lucy. She looks pissed as hell, and she's dressed up. She's always dressed up sexy, but this is like almost like evil sexy. Like she's got a skull in her hair, and like everyone's looking at Natsu and stuff. And then Natsu's like, "Lucy, question mark, question mark, question mark." And that wraps up volume 20, which was pretty good. It ran through a lot. It's like the end of one arc and the beginning of another, without like any any downtime whatsoever. So, but it was good. So join me again in a couple weeks for volume 21, and I'll catch you guys later.